Hello, beautiful sister. My name is Maren Bach-Antonson, and welcome to this video about the witch wound. I'm going to get to our content in just a moment, but for those of you that don't know me, I am a Magdalene Rose priestess, and I work specifically with women who are walking on the awakening path of the divine feminine, who seek to activate their rose codes and their priestess codes and serve as an emissary for Divine Mother's love. And I'm just delighted to be able to share this information about the witch wound, because even bringing this up in the consciousness is the first part of truly alchemizing and transmuting the depth of this wound. It is one of the many wounds to our feminine consciousness. It's a wound that is in the collective feminine consciousness. It can affect anybody. And for many of us specifically that are heeding the inner call and answering that impulse to be of service in the world, we will often have to face this particular shadow and dance and heal this wound within ourselves, dance with this pain and have to heal this wound within ourselves. So the witch wound ultimately has many aspects. So I'll sort of go through them. Number one, when a woman begins to claim a sense of her own inner truth and the depth of her authentic divine power, there will be a sense of terror that goes along with that. Because deep in our biology, deep in our bones and in our cellular memory, there is a part of us that remembers the danger of stepping out and speaking our truth, of stepping into a level of power that threatens the power structures that are patriarchy. And ultimately, even though it's not really a thing anymore in this lifetime, there's a deep part of us that really gets so terrified around being seen in our power. Why? Because in past lives, we have imprints of being burned at the stake, of being tortured, of being punished, of being made an example of or humiliated, of being rejected. So this is really deep inside of our cellular memory, our soul memory. And that's the first aspect. The second aspect of the witch wound is the homogeny that we have picked up in a very young age. Oftentimes it starts at around, elementary, middle school, where we learn that it is safe and we are safe so long as we know how to fit in. And what does fitting in mean? It means compromising our unique essence, compromising our own individual desire in order to fit in with the group. And so back in middle school, it was like if you had the right sneakers, if you knew how to dress, if you knew the words, to say, then you were safe. And homogeny then becomes something that we're all seeking in order to not put ourselves into a vulnerable place, in order to not put ourselves into the line of danger of being rejected. I see this even in adults. I've run women's circles for the past 25 years, and it's really interesting to note that when I do a women's circle for new people or just open to the public, a lot of times you can sense in the room, women come in and it's almost like they're tracking the field. What am I supposed to do here in order to fit in? What languaging am I supposed to use in order to be safe here? And it takes a couple rounds of of the deconditioning and the invitation and the setting the space and activating the space as safe in order for women to kind of open up and to begin to reveal their own holy language, their own inner truth, their own unique self and essence, because we're just so conditioned to be like others in order to be safe. And so what does that do? It ultimately undermines us stepping into our own soul essence, stepping into our own sovereignty, right? Now, another piece of the witch wound is, think about this for a moment. Women who gossip are part of an old paradigm of how women were taught to relate to one another. In the old paradigm, in the patriarchal paradigm, women are ultimately dangerous because we have learned that there's a lot of competition, there's a lot of comparison. Of course, back in the day when we were nothing but wives and mothers for men, we needed to be chosen by the man. And so, of course, that pit women against one another, and it separated us from our power and our power of togetherness. In the new earth paradigm, there's the template of sisterhood, which is the communal, connective tissue between women again that brings us together rather than sets us apart. And when we are together, we can move mountains, we can create worlds, we can make miracles and magic beyond what we know right now in this particular paradigm. Gossip is a woman's need to be in connection and intimacy with other women. It's a human need, it's a feminine need. And the only way that we have learned to meet that need in the old paradigm is through gossip. And if we create little pockets where we know that we're safe at the expense of somebody else, somehow that affirms our intimacy together. Now, in the new paradigm of circle, sisterhood, community, and connectivity, there is no need for gossip because we show up to the sacred space with an open heart as ourselves. And in a sister circle, you get that deep need for feminine intimacy met, but in a healthy way, right? In the old paradigm, it's in a very unhealthy way. So another part of the witch wound is the subset that is the sister wound. Now, this really was affirmed by a beautiful priestess and sister who I want to give an acknowledgement to and mention here. Her name is Tammy Roth, and she happens to be in my Magdalene mystery school program right now. When I introduced the Magdalene wounds, the witch wound being one of them, and Tammy does constellation work, and she's really very masterful in that particular work. And so she, after she was introduced to the witch wound, went off with her own sisterhood and explored through the process of constellation work all of the many different wounds to the memory of us as women. So, for example, being burned at the stake, being tortured, being put in jail. And they explored all of these different aspects of the wounding. And one of the things that she recognized in the field through the process of constellation was that the most active wound, I get chills when I speak this, the most active wound that is part of the witch wound is actually the betrayal of one woman toward another woman. That remains our deepest unresolved hurt from the past. That a woman would betray another sister in order to save herself, would agree that another sister is a witch in order to keep herself in right relationship with the patriarchy. So this sister wounding is something that we really, and just the betrayal of the feminine toward the feminine is part of the deep healing that we are all in the midst of right now. And I've heard from many women who do this level of temple work that hold space for other women to come together, that oftentimes, and I know this has been true one time in all of my 20 years, it only happened one time, but women beginning to betray other women in the modern day, and us having to really sit with that, look at that, be with that, process that, forgive that, transmute that is a very big piece. So if and when this is coming up for you in your own life, where you're seeing women betray other women, it's not that that they're bad, that they're wrong. It's so easy to blame and write those women off that perpetuate that. But in fact, what's happening is that the tenets of this wound have to be excavated. The shadow has to come up into the light in order for it to be healed. It needs to be revealed in order for it to be healed. And so if and when you are dealing with betrayal at that level in your own life by another woman, my invitation to you is, rather than just resist it and blame her, it can be so easy to go there, to actually turn toward the hurt that it causes, to allow yourself to be with that hurt. And when that hurt touches the love that you inherently are, it must and has to begin to transmute, because love transmutes all pain. So I hope that that's helpful today in even just bringing the witch wound up into the consciousness so that you can understand and know about it. I'll add one last little piece here, which is something that has been interesting for me to track throughout the years. I've worked with thousands of women in my practice over the past 25 years. And one of the things that is absolutely consistent is that when a woman gets to that crossroads where she is ripe and ready to step out into the world and offer her highest service, claim her highest purpose, embody her power at a next level, at like truly her highest level, it seems to be that there is a program that goes off in the collective consciousness that will affect every woman. I've not met a single woman that hasn't felt this yet. When we get to this crossroads, imposter syndrome comes up. That deep fear that we can't trust ourselves even. We're so afraid other people are going to call us out, but really what it is, it's that deep, insidious distrust in our own power. So taking on the imprint of the witch affects even how we can trust ourselves. So these are all of the many aspects of the witch wound. So I hope that that's helpful in just being aware. And like I said, in the awareness of it and in the non-judgment of it when it comes up, and the holding it, accepting it as it is, allowing it to be felt, is the very portal and pathway for the beginning of transmuting and alchemizing it. Thank you for joining me in this video. Blessed be.